Janitorial Manager presents the Business of Cleaning podcast, the podcast that brings you the information you need to be successful in the cleaning industry. The Business of Cleaning podcast provides in-depth interviews with successful personalities from the commercial cleaning industry, as well as discussing the trending topics that matter to you and your organization. Welcome into the Business of Cleaning podcast, your number one source for information on the commercial cleaning industry. We release new episodes monthly live from the Janitorial Manager studio located in Toledo, Ohio. I'm Tim Clagg, the Marketing Communications Specialist here at AA Solutions and your host of the Business of Cleaning podcast. Happy belated Thanksgiving, friends. This month we have the pleasure of feasting and talking with the godfather of the commercial cleaning industry, Mark Anderson. Mark has over 50 years of experience in the industry, and currently Mark is the president of the Profit Growth Initiative. Mark, so glad to get you on the show. This is a conversation I've been looking forward to for a while.
Yeah, me as well. It's taking a little bit of juggling, but we got here. Now, is the Godfather coming because of the white beard? I mean, come on.
I mean, 50 years is a long time, and there's a lot to dissect and talk about in this conversation. I want to start back because you started as a young man, 17 years old in this industry, a senior in high school, with an opportunity from your father. He was involved in banking and just wasn't very impressed with the job that the current cleaners were doing. And that allowed you to get your first break in the industry. And I want to dive into that father-son relationship because it is a special bond. And when you look back at him believing in you to do that, and then also helping you out with a loan to get you started, what does that mean to you now, looking back all that time?
Well, it means a couple of things. To give a little quick context to the story, I got the janitorial job because he could control me and tell me what to do. So neither of us knew that was going to be any bellwether to my future choice of industry and professions. But that started there, and then the loan meant a lot. I've said this before on other podcasts. It gave us an ability to start. My folks stepped up, took a risk. My dad was very confident he was going to lose the money. My mom said, no, give it to him anyway. So we all know the wives run the household. So
yes, they do.
So I did get the loan. But it gets you started. And I often had somebody say, well, boy, you got a loan. You were lucky. And I said, well, yes and no. I got the loan. And the loan came with two restrictions. I had to pay it back at that time. I think it was 15% interest, and he took a third of the company. So yes, I got the money that I would have gotten that no one else would have ever given me, but he also made sure that if it was successful, I was going to pay for it. So how's that for a background?
In that first contract too, that you did get when you started in the industry, $25 a week. My, how times have certainly changed. Take us through that process, the moment where things clicked, where you decided, I want to step into this realm full time, where you knew that you could be successful and have a not only successful career, but make an impact in this industry overall.
Well, like everybody else, I didn't start out to be in the facility service or janitorial business. My aha moment was when I failed during pre-med in the end of my second year and thought, I can't do this anymore. What do I do? Went down to the counselor and she said, well, go take business courses. So that's how I wound up in business and finishing through that. But the real moment, honestly, it was probably my junior year. I was doing floors, doing windows. It worked up through a local national franchise company. And all of a sudden I did the math. And back then they were paying $1.75 an hour, I think. And gosh, we'd have to go back to 72 or 73, ran the math, and I was making $4.20 because I knew how to do the work, did it well, did it right, and got out early. This isn't bad money.
Yeah.
Based on the minimum wage. And when I got out, the company that I was working with offered me a job in Washington State here, and was as good as anything I was going to get. And I liked what I was doing. And so I decided, let's go for it. So that's how I got started with them. That's prior to developing CBM systems.
Sometimes people may not fully investigate truly what it takes to run a business. You've seen it time and time again. You understood the process from a young age, not just the process, the hustle, the grind, going to school. You mentioned staying out until 2, 3 a.m. and cleaning. With more resources than ever before, are you seeing that this has improved with today's business owners, that they are better prepared, especially the surge during 2020 COVID, when we started to see a lot more first time owners getting in the cleaning industry?
That's a tough question. I've not thought about that. I think one, you have to remember this is a low barrier to entry business, and anybody can get in it. There's no certifications, qualifications, there's no career path, there's no technical school. You might go to technical school to become a custodian, but as far as running a business, no, you'll get some things there. Boy, that is just, I'm trying to think. With COVID, the spraying and all the technologies that changed, a lot of people jumped in, I think, that didn't know what they were doing and got an opportunity. Just because the electrostatic spraying, if you could get one, I mean, everybody lived through that. So a lot of people jumped in. But it's very interesting. When you talk to most people in this business, you'll find that they really didn't start out to do this. And I mean, I've got customers and I've known people for the last 40, nobody really started out to do this. And when you do, again, I get back to low barrier to entry, you get in it, and a lot of them find out what I did. One, when you're starting out, it's easy to make somebody happy because you don't have any overhead. So you can get hold of a customer. As my buddy Ed Selkow says, you get the first 5, you spoil them to death, you'll probably get 5 more.
Right.
Okay. So are more people getting into it? The industry is changing. Like I'm out on LinkedIn a lot. And yes, people are getting into it because they're realizing it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and there's a ton of facets to it. It isn't just cleaning buildings. It gets into building facility services and just a whole scope. If you can clean it, fix it, wash it, paint it, I could go on with the analogies, cut the grass. It all plays in that category, and it's widened the scope. And the industry has gotten very smart about putting more of those things in their palette, on their painting palette. Yes, we do these things, and they'll do them through arrangements of subcontracting arrangements primarily. So I think people are growing their business in those ways a lot more than they ever were. Because when I grew up, you clean buildings. It was a toilet cleaning company. I mean, make no bones about it. That's what we did. Wasn't what we did when we sold it 40 years later, but that's what we did. And go ahead.
Took you 7 years to hit your first million. If you had the tools, the resources of 2023 when you started 50 years ago, how much quicker do you think you could hit that mark? And what mistakes would have been avoidable that you could have eliminated knowing now what you didn't know then?
Okay, so let me put this in perspective for the math people that are listening to this. That was a million in the 70s. Okay,
Yes.
so if we run that up to current value, you're looking at about 2. I didn't run the math, but you're probably looking that same company today would be invoicing 2 million a year, which is about where that jump point is. It used to be a million, now it's 2 million. So just for clarity, people the people that are doing well in this industry know their numbers. Trust me, they know their numbers. So you want to run that question by me? I chased the rabbit because I wanted to make sure everybody did that. So what was the other part of that?
The second part was, with the tools and resources and technology of 2023 that is so readily accessible to everyone, what would be some of the mistakes that you would be able to now eliminate with so many resources at essentially your fingertips?
Well, let me answer that 2 ways, Tim. The first one would be with what is available, and I'm going to go through every channel, YouTube, AI, everything that you can do now, and all the available information is at a plethora today. It wasn't when I was building. You had to go find somebody who did this. I mean, I can remember paying $1,500 for a 1-day seminar to learn how to
Yeah.
bid. Now you can get on Facebook and talk through people, whether you get the right information or not. But so I would say I would have cut my time in half. And all things being equal, if I did then and had the technology today, I'd say I would have reached that 50% sooner with the same grind, hustle, and commitment to building and reaching the first, which today would be 2 million. You'd cut your time in half with if you're smart, you're looking at the available resources and all the different groups that you can get in. And there are more seasoned consultants, godfatherish and godmotherish type that are my age now that have loved the industry, stayed in it, and they can get advice, from a lot of consultants that have done and built businesses over that length of time. So I would definitely say one thing I always did, I always got outside help. I mean, if I didn't have it in the industry, I looked to another industry. And I think a lot of our success, particularly in marketing and sales, did not come out of the BSC industry. It came out of the sales industry, whether you're Tony Robbins, all the different things. We looked outside. We looked at other industries because we just didn't have a lot in the industry, which is not true today. You can get all of that inside the industry with experts.
And going outside too, continuing to develop yourself as an individual and keep your mind active with those opportunities, seeking with something that might relate in a totally different field. Well, you might be able, okay, this is something new, a little bit innovative here that I might be able to apply. And then it catches on and like wildfire spreads very quickly.
Well, particularly in marketing, sales, when you start looking outside, and when I say outside, we looked at other service companies doing these things outside of our industry. What training were they taking? And I'm just a huge proponent to this day. I still have a coach. I still read a couple, 3 books a month. I cheat now. I use executive summaries and pull out the information and things like that. But I still go through a couple of books a month, tapes. It's just, you have to keep up. And if you're going to scale your business as the business changes, and one thing this business is, it's a relationship business.
Yes.
It's people to people, relationships is our business. It's our only business. Because you've got people cleaning every night, that's a relationship. You've got people buying service, that's a relationship. You've got suppliers, that's a relationship. And when you break the numbers out, I'd say 90% of every revenue dollar is relationship connected. Now, if some companies happen to own their own properties, businesses, or other businesses, let's leave all that aside and not muddy the financial or the balance sheet with other companies. But it's all people. And you have to become very good and adept at getting people to buy into your vision, your mission, why you are different than someone else, and how you're going to get the job done better. Because we've all got the same tools, the same information, and we all hire from the same labor pool. So the only difference is, how can you make a better difference for your prospect with the same tools? Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say this goes hand in hand with the old saying that's working on your business instead of working in your business. With so many people get caught up in that, regardless what the industry is, and doing things themselves. And what does that do? It wears you down. I mean, the time change, I'm wore out already, but it wears you down if you aren't being able to put the proper channels, the proper people in place for you to continue to look to expand your operations overall.
Yeah, you just have to keep moving forward. And the other thing is, working on your business. That came out of Michael Gerber in the E-Myth back in the 80s. And it is an excellent statement, because so many people get started in this business because they were good cleaners or good floor people or windows, or somebody got upset and said, I know you, I can tell you what to do, like my dad, I'm going to stick you in. Okay. So But then you wind up with an artisan that gets an entrepreneurial fit and thinks because they know how to do the technical side, they understand how to run a business. And you ask anybody that's gone through all this, which most of us have, there's some people that came out of other businesses into this one, into BSC or building service contracting industry, that have a little different path. But they'll tell you, getting a happy customer and a clean business is a whole different thing than running the business. And as you run that business, you need to surround yourself with people that have the talents you don't have.
You mentioned scaling just a moment ago. Everybody is focused on growing their business, right?
Yep.
That's what we're all about here, growing your business, expanding, getting more clients, offering upsales. Well, everybody's situation is different. But what is the appropriate time? And you mentioned scaling. What is the appropriate time when you're an owner to look at scaling in your commercial cleaning operation? What is the process, that planning process like, and how much funding or how much cash do you recommend having on hand? I know everybody's situation is different, because not paying attention to these details, not being organized, not having a plan leads to businesses failing. And 74% of startups that try to scale too fast, well, unfortunately, 74% of them end up failing and closing doors forever.
Right. I think unless you are just cleaning the building for extra cash, you start thinking about scaling when you get your first account. Because that's where the process starts. And every one of these things are a plateau that go up at different revenues and different volume. But if you've come into this as, even if it's a side hustle, you're going to have to scale. You don't want to be doing all the work. So your first plan is, how do I become a supervisor and a floor person instead of a cleaner? Then how do I move out of those positions into just a supervisor, manager, and hire the right people under you? And I think everybody should start out. I mean, it's great if you say, yeah, I want to have a $10 million company, but man, that's a long grind. Okay.
Yeah.
But when you start, have a revenue objective in mind and then backstep it. I mean, if I have nothing, let's just say the first year, I want to be up to 300 and let me do this math right, 360,000, which would be 30,000. What do I have to do to get there? How do I get there? What kind of people do I need? As Stephen Covey said, and a bunch of other people said, I'm just kind of a Covey fan. I was trained that way. I begin with the end in mind for the year. And then what do I have to do to get there? If it's just me and I have nothing, then obviously I've got to get 10 accounts. So if you're in it for a business and not everybody gets to 7 figures, not everybody gets to 8 figures. And it's based on a couple things, but one, it's the person and the individual and their ability to grow themselves. If you aren't growing, your business isn't going to grow, period, end of story. We talked about that a second ago, about studying, going to other things, seminars, industry meetings. You have got to grow yourself if you want your business to grow, and you've got to grow faster than the business. And sometimes the business outgrows you, and that's where you wind up in the 74%. Right. Cash is king, and the big key is don't run out of cash.
Something that you were very successful at was aligning yourself with the right people. You know, a lot of people who enter this industry, well, I'm not an accountant. Okay. So when you're looking, if you have that relationship, get involved with somebody who can help with the finances for your business, and aligning people who, because guess what, when you bring somebody in like that, you're going to learn a new skill. You're going to start to ask questions where maybe before, the light bulb was going off in your head. Well, you didn't have anybody to answer those. And now you have those people that are experts in that. What is that going to do? That's going to allow you to be able to grow. How important is that? You've experienced it a lot throughout your 50-year career.
It's vital. It's critical. If I had to pick 2 words, even if you are just yourself, take your books to an accountant at the end of the year, because you said not only will you ask yourself different questions, but when you put a professional that is an expertise in a particular area, whether it's HR, accounting, they're going to ask you questions you haven't thought of. And even when I got out of college, you know everything, right? The accountant gets a hold of that stuff and starts asking you stuff. I don't know, man. I slept through that class. I got a C. But,
C's equal degrees, though, right?
yeah. C's get degrees, brother. I'll tell you that. I'm a living testament of that. Okay, at least my college career, the academic career before that was pretty good. You kind of get lazy, so that's really important. And I have kind of like when the myth when Atlantis crashed, they took the key people out with them to do another civilization, right? You have to have a good accountant, whether you can afford a CPA, but you got to have an accountant. You have to have them look at your books every year. You go, well, gee, man, I'm only billing 10,000 a month. You need to spend some money and have someone go through it. It's educational, and it gives you the ability to run your business better and keeps you out of tax trouble. A lot of people get in tax trouble.
And you might pinpoint an area where, okay, I'm overspending here. I'm not spending enough, or we need help here in this department. So it opens up a lot of eye-opening different points in your business. I heard you say recently, we were talking before the interview started about marketing. Marketing obviously plays a big role now more than ever before in this industry. And during a recent interview, you said about 80% of people in the industry struggle with marketing and growing a company, where only 20% of people really get it. Why do you think that number is so high at 80%?
Well, it's actually worse than that. You can go out and look it up, but for small, medium-sized businesses or SMEs, small, medium-sized enterprises, whichever way you want to cut where you fall into that, it's 90%.
Wow.
90% of small businesses don't understand marketing and don't understand how marketing works and supports the selling process. And because it just isn't as simple as one, because you sell doesn't mean you can market, and because you market does not mean you can sell.
Right.
They are two different skill sets and animals. And marketing's gotten a lot more difficult and technical with all the channels. And again, I'm not an expert marketer. I have somebody on my team at the Profit Growth Initiative, my son.
Yep.
He does that. He's and he is definitely a subject matter expert in that and gets all it. But there's a lot of components, and you think, well, I'll run a Google ad, I'll run a Facebook lookalike ad, and then you wind up losing a bunch of money. And you go, well, this didn't work. Well, of course it didn't work, because you didn't begin at the beginning. Who's your client? And what do you have to offer them? And are you talking to the right audience? No marketing is going to work if everybody that's got a dirty building is your customer. You have to know who your customer is and what problems do you solve. The pain, the agitation, and the solution, the old PAS system. What we'll talk about the pain, we'll agitate it a little bit, and we'll tell you how we'll fix it for you. So they don't get how content and approach. I just wrote something. The things that I see on LinkedIn, the way people approach me to get me to talk to them, are appalling. I mean, you just wonder, gee, did anybody go to school? Has anybody done this? And it's appalling in the fact that I want this, I can do that. And you accept their invitation. Next thing, you go buy this. What about a customer journey? People don't understand. I'm not buying this from you, and I would expect you to buy it from me on the first call. So they don't understand it. That's where you really need, as your business grows and you get to a point, if you're not a marketer, you need to find one to help you. You really do. Or you can learn it yourself, but here's the deal. You can pay the money and have somebody else do it, and you can build the business, or you can stop what you're doing and you can learn all those tactics and learn it yourself, but at what cost? And there's nothing wrong with learning it yourself, but you sometimes don't learn enough to know, okay, I now know how to do this. What do I do when it isn't working? Mm-hmm. And I'm talking about businesses that are probably, you're getting ready to crack the $2 million mark and stuff like that. Otherwise, marketing, they contact people, they reach out, they do different things, but it's just not well understood. It's very well understood by large businesses when you look at how they go through Facebook, LinkedIn, pick something, Instagram, I don't care. I mean, there's a way to do this. And getting a good social marketer on your team is not that expensive. So build a team. This is back where you do what you do well. If you're the ops guy and you're a
Right.
great operator, get a good salesperson. If you're a good salesperson, get a good operator. Build to your weaknesses, not to your strengths. Do what you do well and finding other people to do that for you, particularly as you're looking, you're hitting that, getting ready to hit that $2 million mark. Your company changes a lot. And that's another one of those plateaus you grow into, because you have to start delegating more. You're getting further removed. So you have to be looking all the time. Who is my next player? Who do I get on the bench? What do I need?
And you got the keys to the car to be able to try and make those changes. Going back, I wanted to touch on this because I thought it was interesting too. I was just having a conversation with a coworker of mine a few weeks ago about what you were just talking about, the change in LinkedIn as, you know, an invitation, a tool to build relationships. But now everybody wants to sell you something. And I just think that's very very gutsy to put an invitation out there. And hey, Mark, I haven't collaborated or met you yet, but I want to sell you something. Boom, jumping, taking your shot right away. What do you think has transpired to that direct change? Because it is direct. People are being forward with that. I've seen it a lot in my direct message feed on LinkedIn here in the last year, I'd say, or so.
Well, let me be careful how I say this. Let me think about this for a second. At least I get myself in trouble. You can always edit it out if it's bad. There's a customer value journey. And this, we get back to understanding why and how people buy and the journeys they go through. And the journey starts with, I don't know you, I get to know you. I get to know you. I look a little bit more. Can you fix something? Oh, you can fix something. Now you get to the point, gee, can you help me? You raise your hand, say, I want to hear a little bit more. Then it keeps, look up customer value journey, Google it. Customer value journey is the same thing as dating. You don't walk in to a bar or a club or wherever you are and say, hey, Tim, nice to meet you. You want to go home with me tonight? Now, back in the old days, if you'd had several bourbons and it was 2:00, you might take a shot, but you usually didn't win. Okay.
Right.
And it's the
Right.
same principle. How rude to think you can fix somebody's problem when you don't even know what it is.
Exactly.
And I've got a pet peeve, and everybody wants to 10x your business. And I'm not, and I mean, all the big guys doing this stuff, the Tony Robbins, the Grant Cardones, okay, they got a track record, but everybody wants to 10x something. I'm dead set against saying that. How can I tell you if you use what I've done, you're going to 10x your business? From my perspective, that's the stupidest damn thing I've ever heard in my life. One, they're not me. They may not grind as hard. We can go down the whole list of things. Now, can I help you grow your business? Can you do better? But they dangle out the impossible. And then I love to say, I did it, so can you. I want to choke on my toast. Okay. Right. What a load of road apples.
Yeah.
Okay. There, you won't have to edit that one.
Yeah. Everybody's situation is different. No two paths are the same in anything we do in the walk of life.
Man, their goals, their abilities, their desire, what's happening in their personal life, you don't know. And I mean, I think all those guys are great. I follow all the guys, Vaynerchuk. I mean, they're great. They've done some phenomenal things, but that doesn't mean you can do it. And I've gotten to see on the inside of the coaching, I won't mention any names, but I had a coach that was one of the top ones. And I once asked them, I said, how many of these people, and this was a guy who was he's created billions of dollars worth of business for people. I said, so tell me, how many people have actually done what you said is possible to do? Answer was, I don't really know, because after they do everything, they say, we certainly keep track of the big winners, because the big winners sell, right? That's who you promote. Nobody comes out here and says, look, Tim bought this class, paid $20,000 for it, and lost his shorts.
Yeah.
That's not down below in the social media to see.
Everybody wants to hear the success stories, right?
Yeah. And he said, quite frankly, they keep charging the big, but we don't know. It's impossible metric because they take the information, they go to the classes, they may work for us for years, and go through the system, and then they're gone. We either lose touch. So he said, we really don't know. And there may be a few out there that someone wants to take exception with me that are tracking every iota. But the ones that are doing people en masse, I'll guarantee you, Tony Robbins can't tell you, Grant Cardone can't tell you how many freaking people have actually been successful. Not the big ones. They all know the big ones. They've all got the big ones out there because they sell. But who has been successful with it? And success doesn't mean 10x and 20x and becoming a multimillionaire. That is not everybody's goal, but it's that great American dream that we have the greatest opportunity, I still think, here in this country, anywhere, to make something happen that you couldn't do anywhere else. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be walking on streets of gold and lighting your cigar with $500 bills.
We're talking with Mark Anderson. Mark has over 50 years of experience in the commercial cleaning industry. Currently, he's the president of the Profit Growth Initiative. And I want to dive into something on that aspect, because something that really struck my mind and made me think, because I do this quite a bit, is your guys' bridge method for listeners, avoiding half bridges, not focusing on one idea, but multiple ideas, not being able to follow through. I hate to say it, but you know what? I'm human. I do that. I have this idea, get about maybe a quarter of the way, and then I go to another idea and not finish that out. We're all guilty of that, but I just thought that was something that really kind of made me go individually deep in thought looking at your guys' site.
So what, for the audience, you're talking about the little video we have for the half-built bridges. Okay. And that's a concept. We're digital marketer partners for digital marketer. And that's one of Ryan Dice's concepts. And basically, let's go back to marketing just for continuity. Why doesn't marketing work? Because I get halfway through something and I stop. It's not working. I don't figure out how to make it. So I get the bridge built halfway across and I stop. So if I'm on this side, I'm here. And again, A to B, get where you want to go. But I don't get to the other side where the pot of gold is because I stop. And I'll consult with businesses, same thing in operations. They've got all these things going and none of them are finished. And when I say, well, do you have a process? Yeah. Well, is it done? Well, no, we got busy. I understand that. And I wasn't perfect. I mean, I'm sitting here talking to you because I failed at more things than probably most people have. And if you tally it up like every good player or every good stat, I've got more failures and more swings than I do hits. But obviously you stay in line. So the half-built bridge is anything that you've done halfway and for some reason stopped and not taken it to its completion to decide does it really work or doesn't it. And you get all these half-built bridges, and then all of a sudden we hear this on marketing doesn't work. The ROI stinks. I can't see the return on objective. This is just horrible. Where are you? What'd you do? Well, you didn't do these things that finished the process. Well, yeah, we got busy. Well, does that make it a bad program? One of my coaches, when I got out of doing this, his favorite saying, and I use this to everybody, look, the information isn't on trial. The information works. Who's on trial is the implementer. Can you make it work for you? And back to the point, the 10X, we're all different. We all learn differently. We have different skills. And sometimes you just have to say, is it time to bring in outside support? You can't do everything in-house. And I broke that rule when I started to consult. And I knew it. I mean, I've already been in business 40 years. And I consulted with our other business. I've actually consulted, my gosh, 27 years now.
Wow.
Because we did consulting for customers, we did consulting for competitors in the clean room business, we did all kinds of consulting, and particularly specialty consulting and some of the facilities. And it just gets down to you can't do everything, and you can learn it, you can do it, but when you're building your business, put some money aside to bring some experts in and get some expert help. It will pay, and the metrics are pretty good. But those half-built bridges are usually owners trying to do something themselves that don't have all the pieces, and they get the bridge halfway built and abandon finishing the structure.
Exactly.
And I know you watched the little video out there on Daryl's
I
section on
did.
marketing. So
I
yeah,
did.
okay.
Very, very well
I'm
done.
impressed. You went out to the website.
I do my homework, partner. That's one thing that I pride myself in. Let's talk contracts.
Okay.
Expanding customer lists. A lot of things. Some people fall on the short end is realizing they don't realize there's a benefit, and this is right up your wheelhouse of upselling your current customers because it's said, and this is really mind boggling. We've talked a lot about finding yourself the right people, developing relationships. Well, now, especially too with time of the essence, it takes about 18 months on average to go out and find a new contract. And you can certainly wear yourself out and exhaust yourself out. What are some reasons, before we dive into the upselling, what are some
Okay.
reasons that process now in the day we live in can take up to 18 months?
Well, one, changing, okay, couple of points to this. To make it, the larger the customer and the more they spend, the higher they usually are up in the company. And if you're in charge of buying the cleaning service and it fails, that doesn't look good on your resume, whether you're the office manager or the facilities vice president or director or head of the whole thing. And it's a risk. I got to give you the keys. I got to hope you're going to do it and fix what I said. And it isn't like I go out and buy a new pair of shoes from wherever and I look at them. These are great, man. Everything I want. We don't give a product. It's a service. So there is risk involved. And then people don't like to change. Do you like to change, Tim?
The older I'm getting, I really don't. I
But I
hate
mean,
to admit
change
that,
for
but
change's sake.
yeah.
You know, you walk in and everybody's getting that building cleaned by somebody. And I'll guarantee if they're happy's relative, we could go into that definition. Why change? So you're going to get, well, contracts up in a year. It's annual renewal. See me then. So there's the first part. Contracts are usually based on a year. However, they're all cancelable in 30 days. Nobody in this business. Now, there are ways when you're writing larger contracts, there are ways to lock things in. There's performance issues that are part of the contract. There's certain guarantees as long as you're performing. And I'm talking about things that start getting into the $200,000 a year stuff. They have to, because you can't go in and start something, then somebody get mad and throw you out in 30 days. So there's different strategies for different contracts. But let's just say a level contract, a couple, $3,000 a month. You're on a 30-day contract. Oh yeah, they signed a year, we signed 2 years, but they're all performance based. Every one of those things. Yeah, you're going to get 2 years if you keep everybody happy. So people think in terms of calendar years or budgeting. So when budgets are due, that's when they get more money for next year's cleaning contract. And if let's just say we'll make it simple, my fiscal and calendar year are the same. Okay. So at the end of the year, the whole company rolls over December 31st and we're new. I'm doing my budget in October. Well, if I've got a $2,000 a month budget and my boss says I'm not giving any more this year, I still got a $2,000 a month budget. I go out to bid and everybody's $2,500. I'm not going to change. So I could go into more of the psychology about this. And really, when you get the bigger the contracts and the larger the customers, the more you have to understand this. Large customers can be a 2 to 5 year cycle.
Right.
Just because the cost of change, the opportunity of failure for a change. But so those are why it takes that amount of time. Oh gosh, I'm trying to think who in the heck. I should have looked this up because I was talking to somebody else and forgot exactly who it is. Chet Holmes has a buying pyramid. And Chet Holmes was the second co-founder of FedEx. Chet's passed now. This is again why you study outside industries and people. And he has something, look it up, called the buyer's pyramid. And he proved this over, I don't know, 50 years of selling. It's a proven concept. 3% of the people are buying today. Those are the people that are pinging Google. Okay. I need something today. Who is it? Google lists it. Okay. And then if you paid something, you're over here. And if you didn't, you're down the list.
Right.
They're buying today. Another 7% of those people are purchasing probably they're in the buying cycle. They're in the next we'll say a month contract. So that leaves 90%. Well, what in the world are they doing? Well, on Chet's pyramid, I'm not going to go through it. He explains another 20 or 30% are thinking about buying. These people haven't even considered buying, and these people aren't going to change because their nephew's doing it, just to stretch something. They're in this pyramid, and it's proven. So that's why it takes cycles, because people aren't just going to quit. It isn't going out and getting a new pair of shoes or a new shirt. There's more to it. And I love it when people say, well, anyone can clean a building. I'll throw you the keys. You show me what you can do.
Yes, yes. And
And
leveraging those current contracts.
Mhm.
They may have other business that isn't being taken care of in their building, especially, I'm going to use the example, let's say winter, right? Winter
Yep.
is coming. As much as I hate to admit it, it is almost here. So there's tons of winterized services that you could, if it's not being offered, or maybe you could expand that contract and pick up a couple $1,000s a year, maybe a couple $1,000s a month.
Snow removal.
Yeah. Especially here. I mean, we're calling for pretty, Farmer's Almanac calling for a pretty rough winter here in the Midwest. So, snow removal, that's one. I mean, HVAC, filter changing, maintenance, stuff like that. So you're just leaving money on the table.
Yeah, and here's why you're leaving the money on the table. If you're doing the cleaning, and again, let's keep this in somewhat perspective. Someone's spending a few thousand a month. The smaller the account, obviously the smaller the account, if it's not triple net lease, or excuse me, if it's not a full lease, not a triple net, it's provided by the people you're renting your space from. But most people have to go out and find all those things you're talking about. When you get in the larger contracts, say 5,000, but not 5,000 is not exactly large, but we'll just use that. They have to buy a number of services. Well, they paint their building, they paint the walls, but the walls are a cycle. You don't paint your whole building every year. Now we're back into site. You have to understand when people buy stuff and what cycles they're in. Those are the sales cycles. That's when they're ready to buy. They have landscaping. They use plumbers. Well, you can get, and then they use a lot of services that are more vertical to what we do. They may pressure wash, they may window clean, they may do a lot of they buy it from someone. Well, if you're in there and doing a great job and you're in their building every night and they like you and trust you, and it isn't, this is a real know, like, and trust. You're servicing them, you're there all the time they're talking to you. And you say, well, we can paint. Well, great. Would you give me a bid? I'll give you a bid. Usually they will tell you what they want to spend since they already know you. This is my budget. Everybody's got a budget. I always say, what's your budget? I'm not going to tell you. And look, tell me your budget is too low. I'm going to tell you I can't do it. And here's what you got to spend, friend. You got a budget. Don't tell me you don't. And don't try to get me to get it down lower. I'll give you the best deal I can give you. But with the upsell, cross-sell, you can add these. And of course, you need a certain size building to make this work well. So we had painting contracts at $50,000 to $70,000. And you get better margins because we sub them. How you get all this done? It's the basic primary and secondary contracting. I'm the prime, I hold the contract. I'll take that from you. And they're happy to give it to you because now it's a single point of contact. But again, you have to be doing the work, you have to be performing. But when we sold the business, it was $15 million. We were doing a minimum of 10% every year in upsells, cross-sell at a minimum of 7 to 10% more gross operating margin than off our monthly recurring services, our MRM. It's there for the taking. All you have to do is ask. Now, you got a little marketing program. You have to educate, entertain. You just don't get it. It's not like, it's the same thing as, hey, Tim, I just met you. You want to buy this? Well, even when you know them, it's the same thing. It's a journey. So you learn what their cycles are on all these things. And if they're happy with the landscaper, they're not going to change. If they've got something coming. So there's a strategy and a psychology to working all of this. But you should be able to add 10% if you've got a decent, and I'm going to say a marketing program that works with your current clients and educates them. Here's what we have to offer. it offers them some value. I'll just say, hey, it's winter. Here's the 10 things you need to do. Now we're back to
Yeah.
content. Here's the 10 things you need to do to button up your building for the winter. Snow's coming. Are you prepared? Have you prepaid in advance for someone to do your snow removal? Okay. Because people will prepay. You know why? Because when it snows, everybody's busy and you're going to have to wait. And heck, we used to sell contingency contracts. We didn't get a lot of snow out here. I had a couple of panic customers, but they'd give us $3,000 to be first in line, and I'd pay the subcontractor an extra, 500 of that to make sure I was first. And we had that money whether it snowed or not. Okay.
Right.
So I don't want to belabor this. There's a lot to it, but upsell, cross-sell, bundle, expanding, and they are 7 times more likely to buy from you than they are anybody else. Because even if they bring an outside contractor in, they may know you're there. So there's no security issues. There's no key issues. We can go on single point of contact. And if you work it, and now you're really tied in. So let's say you don't do such a great job with the cleaning this month. Get rid of these guys. Well, they look down. Holy crammy. Let's see, they're painting for me. They're doing the HVA services. Now you're doing it through other contractors, but you have contracts with them. They don't take your work away. Long story short. And they go, and I've had this, I have on $1 million account. Purchasing agent called us in and goes, well, maybe we better bid this thing. He starts looking down at everything. We're changing all the filters in the factory, the bag. We're painting. We're on the line. We're sorting screws. And he goes, I can't get rid of you guys.
Doing too much.
Yeah, you're doing too much. So what you're doing, just fix your problems for me and we'll be good. It doesn't mean they won't go,
Right.
but it means they will think twice, because all of a sudden it isn't just putting the janitor work or the cleaning or the disinfecting work, whatever portion you're in, industry silo of serving. And the closer you are, the more valuable you are.
And when you're doing this many things and it's strengthening that relationship, you're in their building every night, every day, it's going to lengthen that customer life. So the average life of the customer here is going to be longevity, and it's going to create that. And that's important as well, because sometimes, as you said, let's say you did lose that contract. Well, okay, well, we only had them for 2 years. Well, you're doing all these things. I'm assuming you're going to be there for multiple years. I mean, you can kind of go into what you saw with your average customer life expectancy.
Yeah, the CLV. Well, that's
Yeah.
a whole nother topic.
Yes,
Because
it is.
that's how you scale a business. You cut your churn, you extend your retention time, and that's automatic money in the bank. Our average customer, and sometimes I get this wrong. I quote anywhere sometimes 13, 14. We have somewhere between 13 and 15 years. And I don't have all the records.
Wow, that's remarkable.
We kept them that long because we knew the value of keeping. Not only the value, but most companies don't know how much it costs them to get a customer in this business.
Yes.
They don't have I had a plumbing company doing 10 million when I first started consulting tell me, oh, we don't have any sales costs. Really? No marketing? Really? And we had a nice chat. And they eventually became a client for a while, but and I said, well, how do you get your sales? Well, the owner says, I attend all these meetings, I do all these things. I said, what do you get paid? And he rattled off the number. And I said, so that's not a cost of marketing? They don't count the cost, all the calls, the CRMs. I mean, I can go on. They don't know the cost. Well, they don't know the cost of a lead. They don't know the cost of a proposal, and they don't know the cost of acquisition. And if you don't know those things, you're going to lose money.
How much money? I'm curious how much money they were leaving on the table.
Well, yeah. So now if I keep you, so let's just say, make the math simple. I keep my average lifetime value. It runs about 3 years for smaller cleaning contracts under the 10,000. It runs about 3 years. If I kept you just one more year and I was making, we'll just say it's 10,000 and I'm making $4,000 a month gross operating profit. That's $48,000 a year. And I lose it at year end 3. I've got all the cost of somebody else to replace it and bring them in. If I keep them one more year, this is simple. I just put $48,000 in my operating margin. I didn't have to sell a thing. I didn't have to pay a salesman. All I had to do was do the work I was hired to do, make them impressed enough. And for every year or 6 months you add on that, you start keeping your base, and your base gets longer. You can put more on top of that base because you've got more people to deal with. People stay with you. Now we're back to the importance of retention of both client and employees. Whole nother subject.
Mark, I want to shift gears. You are a host of a podcast as well, hosting the Polishing Profits. What have you enjoyed the most so far hosting your podcast?
Honestly, I love working with the team. I've known them. I've known Ed for 15 or 20 years. He's been in the industry about as long as I have, and the same with Sharon Count. And it's so much fun to get the three of us in a room and start talking about how we can help people solve problems better and maybe get that bridge extended a little further. So our podcast is a lot different in this. We go out and look at problems and we talk about solutions. And we don't always agree with the three of us, which is fun.
That's
And I
okay.
think the other thing, it's just giving back to the industry. We're
Absolutely.
all in it, and we can provide, you like what we say or not. We always say, tell us in the comments. But if we can give anybody one idea that helps them make more money, keep a person longer on their staff or an account longer, or gives them that aha moment, the light bulb goes boink, and they go, I hadn't thought of that. And they use
Epiphany
it in a
moment.
Man, that lights all three of us up. That's why we do it. I mean, that's just, and the process is fun.
Very valuable, a lot of insights, a lot of information. We talked about this at the top of the interview. You started with help from your father. Fast forward to today, and you were able to work with your son, Daryl, in your company, the Profit Growth Initiative. It's gone full circle. What does it mean to you now as a dad to be able to work with your son?
That's a loaded question, Tim. He'll probably watch this. I was warned getting into this, and he and I talked about it from friends of mine that have done the same thing. It's an interesting dynamic. It's a great dynamic. It's great to work together, but you're not the dad anymore, and he's not the kid. And getting all that sorted out takes years, and I wouldn't say we have it all sorted out to today. But it gives you an entirely different relationship with a relative. Mm-hmm. We have a business relationship as well as the family relationship. And things can spin out of control a little more and make it a little more challenging. But it is a lot of fun. It's fun to see him do well, to help see how he helps the company do better. There's a lot of stuff that we do as the Profit Growth Initiative. If it was just me, we wouldn't be doing it. You get into the market. I can help you with the sales side and how it ties into marketing, but he can teach you how to miss those half-built bridges and stuff. I can't do that. Mm-hmm. And so he really is an SME. As a matter of fact, he helped me clean up my company before I sold it. When he'd been out of school a year or two, he took a couple of years off and wandered around and did some fun things. And I was selling the company, and I said, would you come in and help me? And he said, well, what do you want? I said, my CRM's a mess. We're behind on everything. That same thing I teach people not to do. I said, all the sales notes are on the president and my notebooks and the vice president. And I said, quite frankly, the thing's a cotton picking mess. So he came in and cleaned it up pre-sale. And they said, hey, this is one of the best CRMs we've ever picked up, because that's part of why the information was there. It's being in business. You just, should I have delegated that and use my own advice? Yeah. Did I? No. Until it got time to sell it, and I realized
we're all human.
Hey, dude, it's like painting the house before you sell it, okay? it's curb appeal.
Right. You've accomplished so many amazing things, so many wonderful things during your career, and helped a lot of people along the way. Your career is still going, by the way, as we've talked about. At the end of the day, though, Mark, what are you most proud of? What is Mark Anderson most proud of during the course of the last 50 years?
Okay, well, I'm probably gonna go in an area that you're not expecting. What I am most thankful for, and probably impressed with. I'm a believer. I'm a born again Christian believer. How God has been actively involved in every area of my life, good, bad, or indifferent. And I have been able, through that part of my faith, it has meant more than anything. And I mean, we've had some, believe me, between family, business, and anybody that's done all this knows what it is. And inside of all that, there was always something. I learned there's something well beyond me to believe in that makes a difference, whether I'm winning or losing. And that would be Christ. So you asked the tough question, there's my answer.
Mark, we appreciate you coming on the show, sharing your 50 years of tips, tricks, and secrets in the commercial cleaning industry. How can people find you on social media as well as your podcast?
Well, the podcast is on all the regular culprits: YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon. We profitgrowthinitiative.com, or it's tpginow.com. Excuse me. tpginow.com is the website. We don't go real deep on our website. We give you enough to whet your appetite and make a phone call. That's what those are for. And Polishing Profits. And on LinkedIn, I do not have my LinkedIn URL memorized, but if you put in the Profit Growth Initiative, you'll find my regular. And I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn.
You do. You spend a lot of time, and that's how I was able to connect. You're involved in several different groups like I am, and you are very active, engaging every day.
Yep, try to be. You have to be. It's like anything else.
Well, that will complete this month's edition of the Business of Cleaning podcast. Be sure to subscribe to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Also, be sure to leave us a 5-star review and your comments. From everyone at Janitorial Manager, my guest, Mark Anderson, I'm Tim Clagg, saying so long until next time.